Hey guys, how's it going? Alex Scott here with Consordini.com. Thanks so much for checking out another one of our super cool studio gear reviews. Today, we are taking a look at a somewhat interesting product. This is the Inovus i88 digital grand piano from Inovus Music. Now, the guys at Inovus got in touch and they said, hey, we've got this revolutionary new digital grand piano. It has all these amazing professional level features. It's got great sounds. All this stuff, we would love for you guys to take a look at it. I do enjoy MIDI controllers, digital grands, kind of everything in this wheelhouse. My current kind of main keyboard that I use is a Complete Control S88 Mark II, and that is kind of my standard for weighted keybeds these days because it's got an amazing FITAR keybed and it feels really, really great. But, you know, digital grands absolutely have their place in the market. You know, they're really, really popular with people who are learning piano. They're popular with people with kids who are taking piano lessons or what have you. And so it was interesting to see this company, you know, going to the website for Inovus and looking everything over. It sounded like they'd really put a lot of thought into the design. It sounded like they had some really, really cool and kind of innovative features that they were playing around with. That's definitely how they presented on the site. And so I was very curious to take a look. We did get the piano in and I've been playing with it for a little bit now. I don't want to sound too harsh, but does not exactly live up to the level of marketing that it kind of came with. So let's go ahead and just give a quick rundown of the features of the keyboard. Again, it's i88, so it's got 88 weighted keys. The keys feel fine. They feel pretty much exactly like any other kind of low-end weighted keybed you might have ever played. The one thing I did find a little bit interesting is that the keys themselves, particularly the black keys, are cut a little sharper than I've felt on a lot of keyboards or MIDI controllers. That's interesting to me. It's not necessarily bad or good. I've actually played some real pianos or grand pianos that have slightly sharper edges to the keys, but it could be a consideration if you are maybe older and wanting this piano to practice on, you know, especially if you plan to be moving around a lot, if you play ragtime or blues or something like that, you know, those sharper key edges could be, you know, just something you want to keep in mind. But other than that, again, you know, it feels fine. Now, it does come, obviously, with the keyboard. It comes with this kind of two-piece music stand system that isn't particularly robust. I mean, you could definitely put sheet music on it. I wouldn't put like a big book of classical music on it or something like that. I don't think it could stand up to that. And it is this kind of unusual design where it's these two pieces and this kind of bracket slides in and then this top part slides in after that. I'm not sure why they went with this and not just a traditional one-piece design, which is usually a lot sturdier. Moving on from that, it does come with 200 sounds, voices as they call them, that are stored internally. I was really, really curious to take a look at this keyboard, and then, to be completely honest, it really kind of fell flat. Because what I was expecting, you know, on their site, they say, oh, it's got 200 different sounds. They're super inspiring. They're all very professionally recorded. And I was disappointed to actually sit down, plug it in and play it and realize that it is the exact same kind of generic MIDI banks of instruments that I have heard on every single other kind of low-end digital keyboard from Casio, from Yamaha. It might not be like literally the exact same sound bank, but it's those kinds of sounds. We'll get into actually hearing some of those sounds in a minute, but it does have a few kind of interesting features. It's got Bluetooth connectivity, so you can connect like your phone to it and it will play audio apparently through. I didn't necessarily test that out, but that's one of their big selling points. It does have USB MIDI on the back, and there is another USB jack on the front to connect a flash drive if you want to import MP3 songs to play along with, all that kind of typical stuff that you see on products like this. But that's one of the first thing that, before we even get into the sounds, I want to talk about the connectivity and me actually setting it up. And now I want you guys to keep something in mind as I talk about this, which is that, as you can see, I'm a professional audio engineer. You know, I'm not somebody with kids who's trying to teach them piano. I'm not somebody who's retired, you know, trying to learn a little bit of piano or something like that. I'm coming from the perspective of somebody who owns and runs a recording studio. I've used tons and tons of different keyboards, from low-end stuff all the way up to super high-end, you know, Nords and like industry standard stuff. But I do have a really kind of basic set of criteria when it comes to connections. So taking a look, I'm going to fly in a photo of the back panel here. It's got audio in, audio out, sustain pedal, a USB. But as soon as I looked at the back panel, I was really confused because the sustain jack is a proprietary DIN style connector. Why you would do this, I have no idea. almost every sustain pedal I've ever plugged into a keyboard has been a standard 1/4 inch jack. Here they've used this weird proprietary DIN thing. So if the included sustain pedal, which actually is a decent looking sustain pedal, it's pretty cheap, flimsy plastic. Overall, it's very, very lightweight. It's not kind of weighted down in any way, but the actuation on the pedal feels okay. However, if that cable ever frays, especially I'm thinking like if you are using this with kids and your kid's horsing around the piano and accidentally tugs on that cable and it shorts, the only way you can replace that sustain pedal is to contact Inovus directly that I know of. Again, I've never seen a sustain pedal with a DIN cable on it like this. But not only that, again, going back to this photo here, you can see the DIN cable is a right angle cable that goes to the right, which completely covers the audio output jack. To a degree where, because the jacks don't feel particularly solid in their own right, when I went to connect my own 1/4 inch cable, I was not comfortable with how it shoved the DIN and completely wrenched the DIN cable around in its socket. I thought it was going to break. So instead I'm running a 1/4 inch cable out of the front of it because it does have 2 headphone jacks. However, when I was experimenting with that, I plugged my headphone into one headphone jack and a standard 1/4 inch TS cable into the other, and it shorted out one of the ears in my headphones. Again, the jacks are quite loose. The whole build quality of the piano, overall it's okay. It's all plastic, top to bottom, and it feels relatively sturdy. It weighs, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 pounds, probably something like that. But just plugging things into it, you get the vibe that stuff, the boards in there are not super secured. And plugging headphones and a cable in to go out to record the sounds that we're gonna go over here in a second, shorted out one ear in my headphones. So that doesn't particularly bode well in my mind for kind of how it's built internally. But let's talk now about internal functionality and sounds. Now, I said a moment ago that it is 100% just kind of generic MIDI sound banks inside that are single samples. On their website, they use the words stunning realism, I think, and they use the words 200 sets of high quality, professionally recorded samples. Well, let's take a listen to some of the internal sounds. This is the grand piano. Sounds fine. Definitely nothing to write home about. It has a reverb that you can turn on and off, no other editable parameters. It has a chorus that you can turn on and off. It has your very typical kind of dual voice and split keyboard for when you're working with your instructor. Everything that you would expect from a super basic kind of ground level digital practice grand piano. It has it. That's all fine. But let's hear some other sounds, shall we? I mean, again, it's all the exact same samples that you've heard in so many other pianos like this. And not only that, but I can tell that it's the most basic of kind of wavetable approaches where it's one sample that's just being digitally stretched. And I was able to tell that because when I got into listening to one of the electronic piano sounds, I noticed that there's this, I'm not sure how well you guys are going to be able to hear it. I'm going to try to boost this or compress it or something in the video editing so that you guys can really hear it. But I thought this was really interesting. Listen. You hear that kind of square wave synth tone that comes in immediately after I strike the note? Well, if I go an octave down, same thing happens, but it takes twice as long. An octave up, same thing happens, but it's twice as fast. That tells me that there's one sample for this sound, one, and it's being stretched as a wavetable across the keyboard. Now, this is the simplest and easiest approach to building an instrument like this or programming an instrument like this, is to just take one sample and digitally pitch shift it around. But what you end up with is anywhere except right in the middle of the keyboard. If you go all the way down here, it starts to sound real digital and real weird. And the further you go up, the more the character of the sound changes. Now, again, I want to make it clear. You guys see where I'm sitting. If you guys are subscribed to this channel, you know, again, I'm a professional audio engineer. I do this stuff for a living. And so these are nitpicky gripes that a lot of people who will be interested in buying this keyboard won't ever notice. But it's stuff that matters to me because, well, another thing that I forgot to mention is, as far as I understand it, this piano is $400 US. For $400 with something like this, I expect a certain, again, a certain level of quality here. I get that it's for kids. I get it's for people who are just trying to practice. But $400 is a lot of money. For $400, you can get a nice weighted, just a MIDI controller, and then a really killer sound library that you could install on your PC, for instance. That would be way more realistic and way more enjoyable to play along with. And just to, kind of finish making my point here, on the sounds that it comes with, that's Music Box. That's a xylophone, apparently. It's got all this silly organ. It's got all the typical clean electric guitar. It's got all your usual suspects when it comes to real basic MIDI sounds. This is a cello, apparently. There are, of course, velocity-sensitive keys and sounds, but it's certainly not like there's different sound sets, at least as near as I can tell. That's a concert bass. So, again, when they say on their website 200 sets of professionally recorded ultra high quality sounds, no. This is, again, the exact same samples we've heard on Casio, Yamaha, basic Kurtz wheel, just like all the stuff that you see in this kind of category. There's really nothing different that I can tell. Maybe they created the sounds originally on their own. It doesn't even sound like that to me necessarily, but I certainly can't vouch for them sounding very good or being very useful. The piano sound is okay, which is really what 99% of people are going to be using this thing for, is just the basic grand piano sound. And I'll play that a little bit more for you, just so that you can get an idea. It doesn't sound terrible. It doesn't sound bad. Sounds fine. And I get it. Again, I'm going to probably say this. I've already said it a bunch. I'm going to keep saying it. Is that, I understand that this is designed for kids. It's designed for people who are just looking for something easy that they can buy and just kind of have around their house to practice piano. And I think in terms of it fitting that role, yeah, sure, absolutely. I think also that if a company really wanted to innovate in this space, there's a lot of people who use digital grands like this. I would love to have a digital grand like this for clients who come to my studio. and would want to sit down and use it as a songwriting tool. You know, it has built-in speakers. They sound whatever. You know, they don't sound particularly amazing. They get the point across, certainly. But I want to see a company take something like this for this price point, we're talking $300 or $400, and don't give me the slap bass sounds. Don't give me 55 synth sounds that I can't edit. Don't give me cheap strings. Don't give me clavinet and harpsichord. We don't need any of it. Give me an amazing grand sounding, very natural, multi-sampled, layered grand piano library. And honestly, that would be fine. Just one, just the one. That's really all we need. If you want to throw a good sounding Rhodes in there, maybe even a Hammond of some kind with a few different, you know, drawbar configurations or percussion settings or something, amazing. But really, again, like the proof is in the pudding when it comes to the marketing for these kinds of keyboards, which is, oh, it's perfect to give your kids piano lessons. With something like this, because it's got all these random sounds in it, it's like I feel like there's a missed opportunity where instead of taking the time on all that kind of stuff, and it's also, of course, it has the, you know, all of our favorite drum grooves in it that you can auto accompany and change the chord and all that typical kind of stuff that you would expect. We don't even need necessarily that. Metronome is great. Just give me great grand piano sounds. That's all I want. We don't need all the extra sounds. We don't need all these drum beats. We don't, you know, if people want to play along with backing tracks, it's 2020. They're going to find great backing tracks on YouTube. And, you know, the Bluetooth connectivity is cool as long as it works. Again, I didn't get a chance to try it out, but that's how people practice now. And I don't think that anybody is going to be launching that and going, oh, wow, this is so much fun to practice to. They're going to be using real backing tracks. So we don't need that. We don't need any of this. Just give me great sounds. As it sits right now, I think $400 is significantly too high for something like this. $300 maybe, getting more down towards that realm of things. Like we reviewed a while back on this channel, a piano from Donner that was a very, very similar setup, almost identical as a matter of fact, you know, in terms of the sounds and stuff. That was $299. And that I felt like was a much fairer price. If this thing is hitting the American market at $400, that's starting to get a little bit too high for me because, again, you can buy a really great MIDI controller and sample libraries, which is really easy to hook up and install even for beginners. This is, you know, it's something that a beginner will use. It's something that kids will use. It's something that somebody who doesn't really care about it sounding amazing will use and be perfectly happy with. But the second they want to graduate to something higher, they're going to have to buy something a little bit higher or buy the sample library and use this as a MIDI controller because you can do that. But it's just like there's so many little things in it and some decently big things that just to me, I just go, oh no, like why is these the sounds? Like, why are we still using the sounds that we were putting on keyboard in like in keyboards in like 1991? Why is this headphone? Why am I'm only this whole time I've been playing? I'm only hearing it in one ear because I've got the jack next to it plugged in. We're supposed to be able to do two headphones at once. Why is the sustain pedal a proprietary connector? Why is it a right angle connector that covers up the audio output jack? So many just little things and bigger things in this keyboard like that where I feel like there's some missed opportunities here. At $400, I cannot in good conscience say like, yeah, absolutely jump on this thing. If it were $300, I'd feel better about it. If it were $250, definitely feel a little bit better about it. But at $400, and especially with kind of the marketing stuff that they say about it, I don't feel it's all entirely accurate or entirely truthful. I don't mean that to slander these guys. Again, they were super nice. Really appreciate them sending me the keyboard to take a look at, but that's just, I mean, facts are facts. You're going to say on your website that you have 250 or 200 professionally recorded sounds in your keyboard, and then you give me guitar sounds that sound like that. I'm an audio engineer for a living. That's not a professionally recorded guitar. That's a cheap FM synthesized GM MIDI guitar. So don't tell me that they're professionally recorded. Maybe the grand piano is their own library. I can't really tell. It does sound okay. I guess I will close out the video by saying at $400, no, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I would look for something more affordable in this vein. Maybe something from a bit more of an established company like a Kurzweil or something. I would say that at a lower price, I would start to be more likely to recommend it for absolute beginners or people with kids. To the guys at Inovus, who I'm sure will see this video, but just, you know, some constructive criticism here, like the jack on the back, the sustain pedal, make it a 1/4 inch. There's no reason for that to be proprietary. Don't make it a right angle jack that covers the audio output. Try to make your jacks a little bit tighter and try maybe to incorporate some better sounds here, because where it sits is not somewhere where I would be super inspired to play an instrument like this. So those are my thoughts. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts down below. In the comments, I always love hearing from you. Are there certain digital grands that you guys really like? Are there ones that you own that you've had a good experience with? Whatever the case might be, definitely let me know. As always, if you guys have not yet subscribed to the Consordini channel, that really, really helps us out. Definitely hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell to be kept up to date with any new content that we post. If you want to give this video a like, a share, whatever. And again, before I get out of here, I do again want to thank the guys at Inovus. I always appreciate the chance to check out new gear. It is cool. I think it's interesting, but yeah, my opinions on it stand. So again, my name is Alex Scott with Consordini.com. Thank you guys so very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, found it informative, and we will see you in the next video.